you positive heads out there. Thanks for tuning your beautiful brainwaves into another episode of the Positive Head Podcast, where we are firmly convinced that creating success and happiness is rooted in understanding the ultimate nature of reality and the fact that as human beings, we are all immensely powerful fractals of the one and only source consciousness which creates and animates all things. After years of exploring this awe-inspiring truth on this podcast, I'm super excited to announce that we are now going even deeper down the rabbit hole on the new late-night style consciousness-elevating talk show called Optimistic, which features none other than you, the listeners. Optimistic is taped out of the epic, spaceship-esque 8-bedroom property we call the Mystic Manor that myself and the rest of the Optimistic crew now navigate reality from in Venice Beach, California. And you are invited to come experience a Mystic Manor immersion week with us. During your week-long stay, you'll enjoy unique workshops, chef-prepared meals, one-on-one time coaching and consulting with me, and even co-creating magic with me as a guest on both Optimistic and an episode of the Positive Head podcast. When I started this, my aim with these immersive retreats was to facilitate the ultimate spiritual upgrade and tune-up, so to speak, for our guests while providing them with one of the most memorable experiences of their lives. And I'm happy to say that as of this recording, every guest at the end of their trip so far has told me that they have had a profound and transformational experience at the Mystic Manor and that they definitely want to come back. All that being said, we only have a limited number of spots available between now and next July. And as of this recording, about half of those spots are already filled. So if there's any part of you that is screaming, yes, I want to come, I feel like I need to be there, go now and book a slot with me to discuss how we can put our heads together and make it happen at calendly.com/talkwithbrandon. I know for some people there is also that little voice in their head saying, why not? I can't get off work. I can't afford it, and on and on and on. But, really Henry Ford, I think, said it best. Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. And I'm confident that where there's a will, there's a way. And I'm personally committed to doing everything in my power, including discounts and payment plans, to get you here if it is something that truly feels like a huge yes for you energetically and like you're meant to be here. Once again, the link to book time to discuss with me is calendly.com/talkwithbrandon. That's spelled calendly.com/talkwithbrandon. All one word, of course. And book in some time and look forward to seeing you soon here at the Mystic Manor.
Back in the day, we weren't really supposed to talk about religion, politics, or sex. And now the biggest taboo topic is diet, specifically eating animals. And I really didn't think I would come on this podcast to talk about eating meat or not eating meat or go into the vegan debate. And yet, here we are. So, hello, all you positive heads. My name is Samantha Lotus, and I have been stimulating some conversations over the last little while. And it's been brought to the public Facebook group is some triggers, some points of contention and the conversation around eating meat versus being vegan or vegetarian. And while I really, it's not my favorite topic to go into all of the time just because of the sensitive nature of it, I do think it's important and it's created quite a conversation. So I'm going to go into it a little bit further. And I'm going to start off by sharing my story. So I was raised on the standard American diet. Even though I'm Canadian, we had the same crappy foods, the pogos and the pizza pockets and the subs and the burgers, the fries, the Kraft dinner, the McCain juices and the McCain cakes and all of the great garbagey processed foods. And I really didn't eat vegetables. I really did not eat very many healthy foods. And I grew up getting pretty sick. I was often going through recurring infections, recurring sinus infections, strep throat, mononucleosis I had, digestive challenges, breaking out in allergies, getting the flu very often. And I was put on antibiotics a whole lot. So I was raised in this, and as I grew up and started to get older and playing sports and then going to university and learning more about health and wellness, I started to realize that what I put in my body really matters. At 18 years old, I was eating poutine all the time, which if you're not from Montreal or Canada, you might not know, but poutine is French fries, gravy, and cheese curds. I was eating that all the time, pizza pockets and pogos and all sorts of garbage and drinking and the whole thing. I had a really unhealthy lifestyle when I was going through university. It was just what was normal and what everyone else was doing. I was also very active and playing sports, playing professional rugby at the time and competitive volleyball, basketball, doing all the things. And yet I was noticing that my body was breaking down. I was getting fat. I was just gaining a lot of weight. My skin didn't look great. And I was just experiencing less and less vitality in my body. So this is when I was introduced to a friend of mine who is a vegetarian, and I started to learn about her diet, and I thought it was interesting since I didn't eat vegetables at the time. I didn't even drink water at the time. I was just on the juice and the soda. And so I remember my body was not feeling so hot, and I started to gain more and more weight. I went up to 200 pounds, although I am 6 feet tall, so I can carry it well, but 200 pounds was still something very different for me, and I wasn't able to fit into any of my clothes, and I wasn't feeling great. So I remember making a decision that I would start to eat more vegetables. That was my first thing. I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to try new things, eat vegetables. As I started to eat more vegetables and vegetarian food because of my friend Gabby, I started to realize, wow, this food is actually really good. And so I then decided that I was going to cut out pizza and burgers and eat more vegetables. And then I loved it. And I thought, wow, this is actually really cool. I also decided that I was then going to cut out alcohol. And I was going to start exercising more. And then I added in drinking water. And I cut out, after that, all processed foods. And then I started to feel really good. And this led me down a rabbit hole of searching for the answers for health and wellness through nutrition. At the time, I was studying psychology, and I thought psychology was the answer to happiness and health. But really, I then learned it was actually what I thought at the time fully all about nutrition and the foods that we're putting into our bodies. So I went on this massive journey of learning about health and wellness and vegetarianism, and I decided that I was going to cut out meat. So at the time, I cut out meat, processed foods, gluten. I cut out a lot of sugars, I cut out alcohol, and a few months later, I also cut out dairy. So apart from eating eggs, I was almost fully vegan. And I stayed like this for about 2 years. I lost a lot of weight, my skin cleared up, I started to feel great. I was loving life, and then I became obsessed with nutrition. I'm like, all right, let's go deeper. Then I started cutting out dairy. And then fully dairy. And then I cut out eggs. And then I also started to learn about grains and oxalates. So I started to cut out grains. By that time, I was pure vegan, mostly raw, sprouted nuts and seeds. If I was eating grains, they were all sprouted using macrobiotic principles. I was eating fermented foods, taking my B vitamins, taking my chromium and selenium, my vitamin D, making sure that I was doing all the things. And at that point, I think I was a little obsessed. I was working out all the time, and I lost a ton of weight. I was, doing all the things again. Like, I was a model for a very long time. I got back into modeling, and I became an advocate for the vegan diet. My first blog was called Real Life But Better, and it started off as a vegan blog. I started to get into the environmental aspects and started to watch all of the documentaries on factory farming and on the ecological footprint and on the political aspect of it and the ethics aspect. And I was really deep into what I thought was the right way to live. So much so that I was creating programs and coaching and teaching people about veganism. And that went really well for a few years. I was probably vegetarian for 3 years and then vegan for just over 2 years. And then all of a sudden, I started to notice that I wasn't feeling that great. I was starting to get really tired all the time. My hair started falling out. I became anemic. My thyroid stopped working. I developed more of a Hashimoto's autoimmune condition. I lost my menstrual cycle. I was extremely stressed. I was going through mental health challenges and struggles. And I became obsessed with diet. I was obsessed with nutrition and what was healthy, and almost to a point of orthoanorexia, where I was like afraid of most foods. And there's such a huge moral implication as well, where I thought everybody was a murderer, and that the whole industry of animal products was ruining the planet. And I was just living in this place of pain and suffering and anger. And then also fear. There was a ton of fear in that. Then I started to learn more about how soy was bad, and then how nuts had too much omega-6 and they weren't good. They were inflammatory. And then I learned about all the oxalates in vegetables, and then all of the way too much sugar in fruits. And it was awful. I spiraled out as I was going through nutrition school and naturopathy school. And I got to a place where I thought, well, there's nothing I can eat, and I can't be a breatharian. I like food too much. It's just not, I don't know what to do anymore. And so there's this perpetual downward spiral that I started to notice after about 4.5 years of being on a fully plant-based diet. And a lot of people ask, like, Sam, when you were vegan, were you taking the right supplements? Were you doing the right thing? And yeah, I was. I was in school for this. I was being supported by naturopaths and by my teachers. And anyways, long story short, I started to get very, very sick, as I had mentioned. And I was consulting my doctors, both medical and naturopathic, holistic doctors, Ayurvedic practitioners. I was going to see everyone because I just wasn't getting well. And quite a few of my practitioners were saying, Sam, your blood results are showing that you're anemic. You're not absorbing. You're not getting enough B vitamins. In your Ayurvedic constitution, or your traditional Chinese medicine constitution, it's showing, like, your vital signs are showing that you need meat in your diet. And I was so against it. I was like, nope. I watched the documentaries. I did the research. I know my stuff. Like, my whole blog is around this. My identity is around this. Like, I'm pre-soaking cashews to make my vegan cheesecake tonight. And I can't eat meat. And I started to wonder what people would think of me if I started to eat meat again, and how my blog would have just gone to shit, and how my identity was wrapped around that, and how I thought I was so sure that this was the right way. And I was preaching it, let me tell you, not as hardcore as some people do, but I really thought that it was the right thing for everyone and for the planet, and that I was doing a spiritual I was on the right spiritual path, because I heard, to have a higher frequency, you need to be vegan, and to be more spiritual, you need to be plant-based, and that for your energy and your frequency, and all of this stuff that you hear in the spiritual communities and from some spiritual teachers. So I really drank drank the Kool-Aid. It's kind of harsh to say. I really bought into all of it fully. Let's just say that. Now I'm at a place where I got really sick. My digestion isn't working. My thyroid isn't working. My hair is falling out. I lost my menstrual cycle. I'm starting to get anxiety and panic attacks. And I ended up getting really, really sick. My immune system was completely taxed. And I ended up developing a blood infection that went systemic into my liver and spread through my blood system. And I got so ill to the point that I nearly died. And this was about five years ago now. And I had a huge spiritual awakening. It was this whole thing that I can talk about in a different time. I'll end up sharing my whole story on my podcast, which is coming out very soon. It's coming out on January 11th. For those of you who are listening to this right away, it's called Real Life But Better, the reality hacking podcast, and I'll share my full story on there. Anyways, I went through this spiritual awakening, and I got to realize a whole bunch of things about how I was living out of alignment and in fear and in scarcity and beating myself up and not letting go of all of the traumas and the wounding and all of these different things. So I started to, go on the spiritual journey, and it led me to my roots in shamanic medicine and energy medicine, and to the Native American culture that I'm a part of as well. My dad's mother is Native, and I'm very connected to the spirituality of Indigenous culture. And I also sought out the Bible. When people almost die, it's nice to seek the Bible in some ways. And even though I stopped being like a good Christian when I was a little girl, but I started to search for answers. And what I found were some really profound medical texts, spiritual texts, religious texts, all saying that meat can be very healing when you're going through this type of health crisis. And I was like, what? How is that possible? Like everything I learned from Dr. Sebi and Dr. Morse about detoxification and cleansing and the alkaline diet and all of the different things, I was like, how can this be true? But it started to come more and more into my field. And I was asking the universe, I said, God, source, higher consciousness, guides, make it clear to me what I need to do to be well. And it kept being affirmed to me in words and signs and symbols and texts and pop-ups everywhere I was looking, was that meat could be something that would help me heal. I also found a book called The Maker's Diet, and it was all about healing chronic illness. And then I started to get into the Walls Protocol, which was again healing chronic illness. And then protocols regarding healing hypothyroidism, which again, all of these texts shared that eating animal proteins, specifically good quality, organic, grass-fed animals, and seafood, specifically fatty fish, is extremely healing and anti-inflammatory. And I thought, what the heck is going on? So one day I saw one of my mentors, who's a naturopath as well, and he said to me, Sam, I know you have these beliefs, and I know your identity is wrapped up in what you believe is true, and your body right now is sharing something very different. Are you open to trying something different? Are you open to healing? Are you open to maybe your body needing something different than your mind wants? Because I've seen this time and time again, he said to me. And he said, what I've noticed from people who are O negative blood type, who are protein type, who are very warrior type, who are experiencing these signs and symptoms like you are, they really thrive when reintroducing meat to their diet. And what's cool is that this practitioner is actually a vegetarian. And he's saying this to me. And I said, okay, you know what? I'm not in a good place. I'm not feeling great. I'm losing my hair. I don't have my menstrual cycle. I'm having panic attacks. I need to try something, because I had already spent thousands of dollars on acupuncture and supplements and therapy and light therapy and sauna and exercise and meditation and all the things, and nothing was working. So I was like, okay, fine. And the funny thing is that my body had always craved meat. It likes the smell of it. It likes the taste of it. It liked the thought of it. I really decided I was going to be vegan, but it wasn't what felt natural to me. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to try. So I remember buying a piece of grass-fed steak and cooking it in organic butter with sauteed kale and onion and garlic and some sweet potato. And I ate this meal and I felt like $1 million. I felt so good. I had more energy, more vitality, more strength, and it just felt right. And I thought, oh, damn, like, what am I going to do? This is seriously conflicting what I had believed to be true. Shit, this is not good. And so I gave it a few days. I meditated upon it and I thought, you know what? I'm going to try it again, see how I feel. I felt great. So then I'm like, okay, well, maybe a couple times a week I'll introduce fatty fish, organic meats, organic chicken back into my diet. And I did that and I felt better and better and better and better and better. And then I really got introduced to functional medicine, to Chris Kresser, to Rob Wolf, to Ben Greenfield, to Aubrey Marcus, and people in the paleo movement and the ancestral nutrition movement and the keto movement. And I learned so much about functional healing and functional medicine. And it really made sense. The science was there. The research was there. Even my spiritual teachers, the ones that I resonate with, were sharing that this is a deeply spiritual practice. And then I got my final confirmation in an ayahuasca journey where this was only 1.5 years ago after I'd been eating meat for 3 years. And I still wasn't sure. I was like, man, please, I'm struggling with this. Ayahuasca, show me what's right. And I met the spirit and the souls of the animals. And again, I shared this before, and I know that it can sound totally like weird or whatever, like bullshit. And I get it, like if I hadn't had this experience, I'd think this is totally bullshit. But I met the spirit of a cow, and the cow, and there's a deer as well. And there are a few other animal spirits there, but the cow and the deer were the ones that were the most prominent. And they shared with me that if I have the intention to do good, to use their energy and their flesh for good, to make positive impact in the world, and I bless the meat and I take it in with reverence, that they're honored to support me in that very spiritual journey. And I remember just bawling my eyes out and having that connection and just feeling the intensity of that symbiotic connection. It was really, really wild. So that for me was a different layer of confirmation that I was seeking, and it came to me in that really unique way. So yeah, that's what I'll share about that. And then since then, over the past 5 years, or 4 years more specifically, a lot of men and women come to me because they have thyroid issues or digestive issues, mental health challenges, anxiety, depression. And a lot of people, it's related to diet. A lot of vegetarians really struggle, especially with mental health challenges and depression and anxiety. And I see it over and over and over again in my clinical practice. And the same thing happens when they start to introduce animal proteins back into their diet. A lot of them thrive. And so how can I deny this? Like, how can I pretend that this isn't real? What happened for me and what happened for them? And I also made a video on YouTube. It's titled "Why I Quit the Vegan Diet," or "Why I Stopped Being Vegan." And it has over 60,000 views and 3,000 comments, and over 100 people reached out to me saying, this is my story. I got sick too, and I wanted to be vegetarian and vegan, and it didn't work for me. And I feel bad, but eating meat helps me and I feel good. And so I'm really just pulling out the courage and the bravery to share like the truth of my story. And what I want to say about that is, I think that the vegan diet's amazing. I think that in its premise, it's beautiful. I feel like it works for a lot of people. I think that people that have past ancestry or history where they are more vegetarian or vegan or come from more agriculturally plant-based areas, I feel like, especially if you live in California and you can eat the freshest vegetables and fruits and mushrooms and all these sort of things, and you have good health and genetics at a baseline, I do think people can thrive. I've seen it. People have been thriving, on a vegetarian diet for 20 years and they're doing great. And that's amazing. And so I'm not saying that you cannot thrive or that the vegan diet's bad or that vegans are bad. That's not at all what I'm saying. And I would love if we move to a place where we can have other alternatives that are healthy or great, or and we can complement ourselves and our diets are balanced, and more people become conscious of the way that they eat and cultivate and farm, because the factory farming industry is awful and I hate it, and it's just not what I promote at all. So, that's what I want to say about that. And I get it that talking about this, it's triggering and it stirs the pot, and yet I've lived too long shutting down my voice, closing my throat chakra, not speaking my truth, not sharing my story, and seeing myself and others suffer from the shame. There's so much shame programming out there of like what we should do, what we shouldn't do, what's morally right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad, what's ethical / what could be murder, right? And I just don't think that promotes coherence. I don't think it promotes evolution, nor growth, nor compassion. And I'm just not about it. So I don't let people make me feel guilty for sharing what I think and what I feel. I'm not claiming to be right. I'm not claiming to know anything, really. I feel like I know things. I believe things. I've done my research. I've studied. I have 8 degrees, in certifications. Like I know my stuff, and I'm willing to be wrong. It's just that this is what's right for me. This is what's true for me. This is the small t truth. And I just personally don't believe that there is a capital T truth, that one truth fits all. I just have not seen it. And I've been around the world, traveled to over 30 countries, went to every health conference on the planet and really studied with some of the most prestigious teachers and doctors and practitioners and shamans from all walks and spectrums of life. And so I've acquired quite a bit of experience, and my intention is to share with an open heart and open mind to inspire and educate and share my perspective. And so excited to hear other people's perspectives, because I think conversations are really important. Not that we're going to convince one another, or not that we're always going to agree, just simply to recognize that we are all bio-individual. We are all unique little snowflakes, and where we can have an understanding and a compassion for one another. So that's that in a nutshell. I promise that not every episode will be about diet. That's not where I want to go with this. I'm excited to explore all sorts of facets of holistic health and wellness. My specialization is in human flourishing and optimization, being able to perform at peak optimal levels, and bringing people the tools and the resources and the support and the accountability to hold you to your highest capacity, so that we can all evolve collectively in this beautiful simulation experience that we call life on Earth. So I'll be sharing more about mindset and attitude, about emotional alchemy and relationships, about clearing trauma, about physical optimization, through different biohacking techniques, and then about the spiritual, about the soul, about life purpose, about love, because that's what I really love to talk about. We went here because we went here. And so if you are still here with me, thank you. I appreciate you. A whole bunch of you have been reaching out to me, and I just love it. That's really awesome. You can find more little hub content from me where I'm just sharing regularly on Instagram at Samantha_Lotus. You can find me on my website, samanthalotus.com. And if you want to watch more of my videos, my help content on alchemy and holistic lifestyle and optimization, you can go to my YouTube channel, which is bit.ly/Samantha Lotus YouTube. And I'm always excited to make videos about what you want to hear about. So if ever there's something that you want me to share about, or a topic you want me to cover, please let me know. I'm super happy to make a video, especially for you. With that being said, I love you incredibly. I'm honored to be here. And I'll let you know when my podcast is live, so you can hear more of the journey, the story, the mission, and maybe some silliness. Maybe we'll throw in a little bit of personality. Wishing you a beautiful day. So much love.
And if you're feeling the call to come for a week retreat style Mystic Manor immersion, remember to go now and book your time to speak with me directly about stepping into the optimistic vortex at calendly.com/talk with Brandon while there are still spots left. Otherwise, I look forward to co-creating magic with you at the Mystic Manor.